All right, how are we doing? I haven't been on here in a while. We'll see if, after about a year of being off of YouTube, some old friends pick up and decide to jump on the Delta, the Don't Feed Your Mogwai After Midnight edition on YouTube. And the only reason why I'm on YouTube instead of Telegram is because I want to see if Dave from Eagle, Idaho shows up and Big Pete from New York. And if you're here, great. But what I did was post a little something on Telegram on some questions. Just send me some questions and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm up late. This is very reminiscent of the days that I had back a year ago, where about midnight or so, I just jump on and ramble. So I'm feeling a very nostalgic spirit to do just that. So let's look at our questions and I'll just take them in turn. Oh, wait, where are we at? I'll take it from the top. I'm starting to wonder about Juan. Are you? That's the first question. And I imagine you're talking about 107. I don't know 107. All I know is the image that has been created by a person that's usually not seen, that has his cowboy boots propped up on a desk, and that he drinks bourbon. And so there's a level of anonymity that, that's just not my style. But I'm very skeptical of folks that don't answer under their given name, and that they claim to have specialized or secret knowledge from the military, or to have frequent contacts with the president. And the reason why that I posit that is because there's just no way to verify it. You have to take someone at their word. And so if he's got all the goods, then great. If not, then I just think it's something we should pause at. So I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other. Next question is, does the military have it all? I don't know. I know that the president, the real president, Trump, certainly seems like a man who's composed. And there's too many anomalies that don't make sense to me on why you've got the resident chief on a movie set. Those are questions that need to be answered. Someone wrote in, is Joe, I'm assuming that you're referring to Joe Flynn, just lying when he says General Flynn is absolutely not running in 2024. I think that anyone in the Republican Party would be a fool to announce that they're running in 2024, because as soon as you do that, you're putting yourself in a position to get crushed by Trump. So will General Flynn ever publicly acknowledge that he is in fact running? That would be a foolish thing to do. And I think any politician that makes the decision to announce that they're running for president is going to run into an absolute buzzsaw that is the real president. So it's a very different question. I think Joe is lying in the sense that General Flynn does not have ambitions and isn't trying to situate himself in a position to either be the presidential nominee or to be a vice presidential candidate, much like George H.W. Bush was for Ronald Reagan, or Pence was for Trump. Michael Flynn will never carry the heart of the American people. He'll never be first in the minds and hearts of we the people. And I think he knows that. There's only one Trump. And if he's a rational person, he'll try to situate himself in a position where he would be, a person that you might clamor for to be the number two person. I've got strong misgivings about Michael Flynn. I haven't been silent on that. I don't think he's loyal to the president. So, yeah, I don't think that Joe's being truthful about General Flynn positioning himself to be a presidential contender or vice presidential nominee in 2024. Kirsty asked, do you have faith that God will save America? I don't know. I have faith that God is good, that God is sovereign, and that God will honor himself, that he's not confined to the fortunes of America, that he loves all of his children worldwide. But at the same time, I do believe that he has a special relationship with America, that we have a strong covenant with him, and that America is special. And I have a sense that, yes, he's going to save us, but that's, I can't prove that, but I believe it to be true. Hi, Professor. I saw your page on Truth Social, and I was just wondering if it is really your page. I've got a page reserved, but I haven't gone over there. I need to check it out. But I'm not really a social media guy, so it's there. But I need to get on it, right? When will we get our diamonds back? I hope soon. I don't know. Next question. Why didn't Nino put you on YouTube? And I think this person is referring to David Nino Rodriguez. I don't know. I think the more relevant question is whether or not he put Joe Flynn's interview on YouTube. And that will tell you something on why there might be disparate treatment. I know that my interview with Nino on BitChute was taken down, still exists on Rumble. And perhaps Nino didn't put me on YouTube because I get kicked off of YouTube. I mean, the fact that I'm just doing this a year later from probably the last time I did a live stream shows you that most of the stuff that I talk about doesn't last without triggering some type of algorithm. So that might be one of the reasons, but you'd have to ask Nino. Next question. Do you think Trump's lawsuit will be successful? I'm actually quite hopeful. I think it was very, very interesting that he named Hillary Clinton and Sussman and Mark Elias and all of these major players that had a part in the coup that took place. It makes you wonder why he's initiating a private lawsuit for damages. Perhaps it's another avenue for him to red pill folks, have discovery, have headlines, but I don't know. I hope so. Bob says, does your family and friends ever tell you to back down, that you've already done enough? In a way, yes. I've had close family members that are fearful. My father-in-law obviously loves his daughter very much, and many things that I've done have put my family at risk, which would include my wife and my father-in-law's daughter. And so they often ask questions about the things I put out there, and everything I put out there is very controversial. So there's a way to have me consider not putting the stuff out there. Not so much. I don't get so much of anyone telling me that I've done enough. I think all of us want the republic to be restored, and enough will be when we see victory. And until then, I don't think anyone's done enough. Okay, next question. Why are so many Christians still choosing to sleep and not awaken to the truth and the reality around them? What is it? I think those people are probably nominal Christians, people that have met Christ, that know him, aren't asleep. They are awake. So I think there's a segment of the church that are believers that have created a Jesus in their own image, and it's not the God or the Jesus of the Bible, and it allows them to avoid the truth. Next question. Have you talked to Jack Maxey about Garrett Ziegler? Jack Maxey and Garrett Ziegler appear to be the most notable authorities on the Hunter Biden laptop. I have talked to Garrett um, at at length, and I've got I think, a very good relationship with Garrett. I met Jack once at High Point, North Carolina, and they just have very, very different approaches. Jack has made some promises about what the Biden laptop will reveal. Garrett has steadily revealed all kinds of stuff through his work through Marco Polo. My sense is that Garrett is very deferential and kind of takes the high road with Jack. It doesn't seem like he's got an ego. He just wants to hold people accountable. And then Jack, I didn't get that sense from him. I didn't talk to him for a long time, but he seemed to be bothered that Garrett was being recognized. And so that was my impression of the two. But I believe Garrett, because I know him better than I know Jack, is honest. I think he's thorough. I think he's well sourced, and I'm very thankful for him. Someone said your interview was fantastic with Nino. I hope he has you on again. Do you know if Lynn will do an interview with him? I don't know. I talked to Lynn and I broached the subject with him earlier today. And I don't think Lynn is interested in just going back and forth with the Flynn dynamic. I mean, people know how he feels. I don't necessarily want to do it either, but I'm wired a little bit differently than Lynn. I mean, we're both fighters, but I feel like in an information war, you have to continue to consistently communicate the truth, and you have to combat lies. And anytime that I see a lie or misdirection from anyone, I'm going to do my best to call it out. And so I've stayed in the fray, and Lynn, I think, has tried to move on. So I don't know if he's interested in just doing an interview where he's going to go back and forth with a, he said, she said dynamic, or a Lynn versus Flynn dynamic. I was hopeful that Nino would have used the clips that I sent him about things that are indisputable. But it's his show, and he did it the way that he felt like he needed to. I looked at the comments on the interview with Nino and Joe Flynn, and I think people saw that Joe was very evasive and didn't answer the questions. And here I am at 1:00 in the morning answering questions without any prep. So it just shows you that we're very, very different types of people. Why did President Trump pardon General Flynn? And why was his brother appointed a position with the U.S. Army Pacific Forces? That's a good question, because that's something that's often raised a lot, because I'm critical of the approach that Flynn has used, not highlighting the machines as the primary culprit of fraud. He rarely emphasizes getting rid of the machines, and I've been critical of that, because he's a general, for crying out loud. He's a leader, so you should emphasize what the primary weapon of the enemy is, which is the machines. But to your question, why did President Trump pardon General Flynn? Short answer is I don't know. Does that mean that he loves him, that he endorses him, that he's pro Flynn? Some people would say yes. I would tell you this, that until General Flynn was pardoned, that the Russia hoax and the Russia collusion narrative was kept alive through the prosecution of General Flynn. And you have to ask yourself, whose interest does that serve? Does that serve the deep states? Most certainly. Does keeping a false narrative over the Russian hoax serve the interests of President Trump? No, it doesn't. Does pardoning General Flynn kind of put an end to the Russia hoax story as far as it being perpetrated by someone who chose to talk with the corrupt FBI without an attorney? Does it put an end to the narrative of a person that not only spoke with the FBI without an attorney, but didn't seek out um, an opinion from the White House that could have asserted an executive privilege to protect the president. So there's lots of questions there. So I don't know. I don't really get sucked into the reasons why Trump pardoned General Flynn. I've got like a dozen issues that are all fact based that I want answers from Flynn because I saw an audit that was tanked, that was staffed with America Project people. And General Flynn is the face of the America Project. And I've just seen a level of dishonesty on many issues that I don't think he should get a pass for. So that's what I focus on, and people can come to their own conclusions. Naranja Turtle says, "Why don't more people like you?" And she's making fun of me because I put a post on Telegram that I don't care if you like me. So that's very clever. Diane comments, "It seems to me that the interviews that Nino did were just an attempted setup to discredit the truth you have exposed. Would you agree?" I don't know what Nino's intentions were. I know that he was put into touch with Joe Flynn through 107, and that Nino was very deferential to Joe and didn't challenge any of his answers with the clips, filings, screenshots that I provided. So I don't think that the truth was fully revealed during his interview with Joe. He had an opportunity to do that. But Nino's a boxer. He's not an attorney that's used to cross-examining people. And so I don't know if he'd be comfortable doing something that I'm very comfortable doing. But I'll credit Nino's audience in the comments. I think they saw through Flynn's answers, and there was a lot of deflection. And so whatever the attempt was, I just by reading the comments on Nino's YouTube channel, I think that people are smart, and I think they can read people. Corey writes, "Do you still collect royalties from the sales of your books, The Last President and Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey?" So those books were written by Ingersoll Lockwood. I cannot comment on whether that is me or whether or not I collect royalties. I need a level of mystery, and that way you all think I'm a time traveler. But I'll be mum on that. Donna writes, "Why did Hannity go off on Tulsi?" I'm thinking we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard. I don't watch Hannity, so I don't know what exactly happened. But the comment goes on to say, "Why is Hannity getting so rude, constantly telling everyone how Lindsey Graham is his friend, and then Trump comes on his show? I need more than optics." I've never had a deep-seated trust of Hannity. He always seems to show his true self in times of war or anytime there is a movement to have us overseas. And Fox has certainly been sucked into this Ukraine nonsense, posturing for a war. It's very reminiscent of the weapons of mass destruction propaganda that we saw in the early 2000s. I think Lindsey Graham is a detestable human being. So I don't know. But Tulsi has often espoused an anti-war view, so I can only imagine that he's going off on her under the fear porn that is Ukraine-Russia relations. But I don't like Hannity, and I really don't like Tulsi. She's another one of these globalist types. She runs around in the same organizations as Dan Crenshaw, so I don't trust any of them. What else do we have here? Are older ES&S ballot counters needing to be removed? Yes, all machines should be removed. You have the same vulnerabilities with ES&S machines as you do with Dominion, same vulnerabilities that you see with Hart, and they all use Smartmatic software. So no matter how you slice them up, even if ES&S machines aren't hooked to the internet, and they can be, whether it's through chip modems that are attached to the machines themselves or through USB modems Remember, you have other vulnerabilities at the poll pads, which are hooked to the internet. So you've got manipulation that can occur there. And then you also have to keep in mind that all of these tabulators, whether it's ES&S, Dominion, HART, have SD cards that are then retrieved and uploaded into an election management system. And those election management systems are networked to the internet before the results are turned over. So yes, all machines need to be removed, and we need to get to an all paper-based election. ES&S doesn't get a pass. Getting a question on COVID symptoms. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not a doctor, but yeah, COVID's dangerous in the sense that it's a bioweapon. In December 2020, I was overwhelmed with the realization that a stolen election had catastrophic consequences. Question asked, how do we get people to realize that their vote is just a data point? And that's something that I've been harping on because people have accused me of trying to convince you all not to vote. And I push back against that you don't know what voting is. What we do is cast a manipulated, fractionalized data point, and that voting is a process. We, the people, think that a vote is a vote because you fill out a bubble and you scan it into a tabulator. But many things happen to your vote. Your vote is chopped up, sliced, shuffled, diluted. So by the time you check in with the poll pads and they make a point of you checking in, you getting your ballot, that your ballot gets filled out. You submit that ballot through a tabulator. You have all of this information that's retrieved, but it's not a vote. There's an entire process. And usually what happens is that you've got days and sometimes weeks where people continue to stuff ballot boxes to ensure that your vote is not a vote. So I think the way that people realize that their vote is just a data point is to educate yourself and share the truth that it's the machines that are diluting your voice and stealing your voice, and that what we're calling voting, it just isn't. It isn't voting. All right. Have I read Trump's lawsuit? And if so, what do I think of it? I haven't read it. Sorry. Have you turned your voicemails with threats from the Flynn gang and others over to the authorities? They need to face charges. So this person's referring to Jeremy Oliver, who left voicemails, many of which were very ominous, threatening to leave me lying in the wind, that I need to look over my shoulder when I get on airplanes or off of airplanes, Ubers. And there's one I haven't shared that's especially disgusting, and I won't share it because it talks about what would be done to my wife and children. But there's a question of what trust do you have in the authorities? Keep in mind, I was in law enforcement. The greatest weapon that I have is you, we the people, and the public. And when you believe that the authorities are corrupt, which I do, the judiciary is corrupt, which I believe, then you press your advantage where you have one. And I happen to have a platform. I've outed Jeremy Oliver for the thug that he is. You all know that he's a thug. And you all know that he is a enforcer for the America Project, which ties him to Flynn and Patrick Byrne. And so that's going to be the avenue that I face. I'm confident in everything that I've said, and that Jeremy Oliver, if he wanted to file a lawsuit claiming that what I'm saying isn't true, he'd be welcome to do so. And I would look forward to that, because then you'd have discovery. And I would love to depose Jeremy Oliver and ask him about his relationship with the America Project and get down to it. But when you're dealing with spooks and the intelligence community, a lot of these people have ties to law enforcement that just happens to have been turned upside down and are corrupt. So I'm going to fight the battle in a way that makes the most sense. And to me, the battles that make the most sense is to cast a giant light on evil people and their dark ways. Got a question on Pennsylvania. I don't know enough about Pennsylvania right now to talk about it. Question: do you ever worry about practicing law or teaching again? and how that'll come out. My sense is that if we don't restore the real president, that I've got no future. My reputation is stellar with people that are loyal and follow me and know me. But if you Google my name, I'm slowly being described as a cracked QAnon conspirator who's crazy. And I imagine if we don't win, that propaganda will continue to manifest, and that will make me unemployable. And it's made me unemployable now because I have to advise my clients or prospective clients, if they want to hire me, that a judiciary could hold it against them. They could Google my name and say he's crazy, and that can be used against prospective clients. And there are ethical rules that I have to be a zealous advocate, and I can't be a zealous advocate if I'm hurting my clients by virtue of my reputation. So unless we win, unless God vindicates his name and vindicates his children, then I will cease to be employable as a lawyer, even though I'm still licensed. Do I worry about it? No. I believe that God's sovereign and that he's got a plan, and I'm doing exactly what he wants me to do right now. Do I ever worry about whether I'll teach again? Out of the two, I prefer teaching more than practicing. I really love teaching students, and I do miss it. There's part of me that really wishes that the world was normal again, and that I could be in a classroom and invest in the lives of my students, to teach them about what the law should be, and that they should be white hats, that they should go out and seek justice. Will that come about ever again? I don't know. It's up to God, and I'll do whatever I feel like he's leading me to do. And right now, I feel like he's leading me to fight, to get kicked in the nuts on a daily basis, and to deal with it. But it's been a bittersweet year. I mean, I feel like I'm doing exactly what God wants me to do. Hasn't been fun, hasn't been comfortable, but I can't worry about that. Have any of your former students from your last class reached out to you since I've been terminated? Yes, I've had many students reach out to me, and they're very supportive, and it's wonderful. My students know me. The ones that sat in my class, they know that I care about them. Tara asks, did you or have you researched the Q posts? Minimally. I'm not a Q guy. I talk with a lot of people that are. I think that Q is a thing, and that there's enough that's been validated that you'd be a fool to ignore it. In a cursory review, I would say that the first 100 posts seem to be research driven, which I like. I'm very comfortable with people asking questions that you research, because that develops your own critical thinking. And I looked at some of the later posts, and they seem to be less research driven and more trust people that you don't know. And that puts you in a passive state instead of an active state. And I don't like that, because we need an awakening of we the people, and we can't wait for people to save us. And so I think once the posts went from the 4chan board to the 8chan to the 8kun boards, that the quality of the posts to me seemed to put people on autopilot rather than in a research mode. So could be wrong. I'm not an expert, but I'm a quick study. Okay. What else? Some of these questions are repetitive. Have Roland and Logan peered through the looking glass lately and seen what's going to happen next? They have a keen eye. They'll pop up at the right time. Why is no one covering the truckers' convoy each day? Whatever happened to the truckers in Canada? Where can I find daily updates? I think any We the People movement that fights tyranny is an important movement. For me, that's not my thing. My thing is to fix 2020. I think that everything flows from restoring the rule of law through our elections. And so I won't say it's a distraction because great things can come from it, but I'm not a trucker. I don't live in Canada, and my cup is full with all things audits. So I don't know, but I know that it's been inspirational to see people stand up to Justin Trudeau and a corrupt government. Snotty Nose asks, is there more to the meeting with Lynn and President Trump than meets the eye? And I would say, of course. Of course. There are things that you can see in the natural, but don't forget that we've got a great God who's sovereign, and he's working through Lynn Wood, and he's working through President Trump, and he's working through you. So who knows what God's plan is, but I think Lynn was put in front of President Trump for a reason. I think my meeting happened with President Trump for a reason. And I don't say that as someone who's angling for a position, who wants a job. I'm confident that, I'm comfortable with the idea that I might never meet the president again. But for whatever reason, I was in a room with him for a good amount of time, and who gets to say that? So I don't know how God's going to use those meetings, and it's a great mystery. I can just tell you that I think he's a remarkable man, both of them, Lynn and Trump, and I believe that they love our country. Some of these I'm skipping over because I can skim through them quickly and I don't have an answer. So if you submitted a question, I don't answer it, then there's a reason why. Anthony writes, I would like to spearhead an audit in North Dakota. What steps need to be taken and in what order? You need to start a conversation. There's no perfect plan. There's not going to be any plan that isn't going to be met with some type of opposition. I have advocated for the county commission strategy. You talk with county commissioners in one of your counties in North Dakota. I would go with a place that has county commissioners that are receptive to the idea that the election was stolen and away from your major population centers, even though there might be more, fraud in Fargo, doesn't mean that you're going to have success in getting an audit there. And I don't necessarily think you need to spearhead an audit or a canvass. This is a question of, do you, as a constituent of a county, have sufficient confidence in the machines that are used in North Dakota? And if you don't have trust in the election system, you and other constituents should get together, show up to a county meeting, and demand that they get rid of them and go to a paper election. This is just a question of who works for who. Do you work for the county commissioner, or vice versa? If they want to authorize an audit or have machine experts tell them and educate them, there's different things that you can do. But I would start with having a conversation with the county commissioners and figuring out what their objections are, and then bring in the requisite experts to convince them to get rid of the machines. Who takes your black and white photos? They're always on point and perfectly capture your message. I take most of my photos. I'm not a photographer. These phones are amazing. They take good pictures. And I guess I'm just getting lucky. I'm asked by this person, are you familiar with the Lone Raccoon on Telegram? Do you support him and Lady Draza? My local group is looking into voter rolls. I shared your message about taking out the machines. I did not receive a warm welcome. Thoughts? Well, I am familiar with Jeff O'Donnell, who's the Lone Raccoon. He was the expert that was largely behind the Mesa report that Mike Lindell has recently embraced. I think he's a credible expert. I like what he's done. He's got a tool by the name of Polaris that's very helpful in analyzing cast vote records. And one of my interviews that I did, I was probably one of the first people to actually introduce folks to Jeff O'Donnell. Um, Lots of folks don't talk about me much now because I'm always picking fights with people, and so not everyone wants to necessarily, um, be buddy buddy, at least in front of the cameras with yours truly. But I'm in a season where I really don't care if I'm on TV shows. I care about the truth, and I feel like there's just too few people that are willing to stir the hornet's nest. And so, a lot of other people in the Patriots movement are a little bit more neutral, and they want to make nice with people, and I can understand why they're doing that. But that's not me. But I do know Jeff. I'm going to see him in Utah this weekend, and but I think he does great work. And then Lady Draza, of course, I know who that is. I think, the first person to interview her in a long form format. She was largely ignored by the Flynn faction back in December of 2020. My wife met her somehow, and we endorsed her and promoted her, and she is amazing. Your local group did not give you a warm welcome when all they're focusing on are the voter rolls, and that's not unusual because people have been lied to and propagandized into thinking that the way that you fix your elections is to just clean up your voter rolls. And that's a load of crap because we're finding that your voter rolls are artificially inflated, and that's happening in every state. So you can clean up your voter rolls only to have someone reinflate them the day after. So this is propaganda that's being fed to these local canvassing groups and grassroots groups that voter rolls and voter ID is going to solve the problem, and it's not. Those are front end solutions, and they sound great. You could see them, but the way that our theft is occurring is through the machines, and that's the back end. It's through things that you don't see. It's the information that's being relayed from your poll books to the Secretary of State's office. It's the vulnerability of your machines if they're hooked to the internet, and I mean your tabulators, and it's what can be done to your votes when your SD cards are uploaded to your election management system. All of those points are vulnerabilities for machine-driven fraud, and that's where the cheat's being deployed. We didn't lose the republic because of voter ID. Certainly, you want to have voter ID, and you didn't lose the republic because of inaccurate voter rolls. Of course, you need accurate voter rolls. The primary culprit is the damn machines. So get rid of the machines, and all this other stuff becomes much more manageable. Okay. Why do you think Trump has not intervened with legal help or financial help for the J6 prisoners? He rarely mentions them. I think in part because the president has a plan, and how things appear are very important. If you look at the art of war, one of the principles is to be strong when you appear to be weak, and vice versa. And the truth of the matter is, none of us know truly how Trump is monitoring the plight of the RJ6 prisoners. If he's a wartime prisoner, and I think he is, then he's likely helping the prisoners in ways that we can't understand or can't see. But they're prisoners. These aren't criminal defendants by my estimation. I believe that you had an insurrection. Trump said as much, that the real insurrection took place on November 3rd, and that would make everyone that fought against the insurrection by showing up at the Capitol on January 6th, that they are prisoners of war. And if that's true, then you have to entertain the idea that the writ of habeas corpus was suspended, and due process in the Constitution is not working the way that it should. Is that true? I don't know. But I can tell you that as a former prosecutor, I've never seen due process rights be more violated than over the past calendar year. Never seen anything like it. So we're all waiting to see if Trump truly is in control of the military. And if that's the case, then I'm hoping that we won't have pardons, because you don't pardon prisoners. You honor prisoners when they're freed. And I'm hoping that we have a future where all of our J6 prisoners are honored for being the heroes that they are. Cynthia says, I have a deep feeling, intuition that you'll be Attorney General one day. I don't know. I hope that God wants me to have a quiet life where I'll never have to go on Telegram or YouTube ever again. And I'll get to enjoy my kids and my wife. That's what I hope. But ultimately, I'm going to do whatever I feel God's leading me to do. So we'll see. Question: Laura Logan, truth giver or deep state? I don't know. I'll be honest. I wasn't aware of much of Laura Logan's work. I did watch And We Know, which I like that show. And I forget the name of the person that hosts that show, but I think he's one of the better truth givers out there. And I know that he recently interviewed Laura. I think that she's been more right than wrong on the plight of what's going on in Ukraine. But I also know that she has come to the defense of Mike Flynn as one of her great sources, and that she's been critical of people that have questioned his faith. And I have obviously questioned his faith because he prays occult prayers. And I would love to watch the occult prayer that he prayed alongside Laura Logan and have her give an account on why she believes he's a man of faith. I don't buy it. And I think it's dangerous to pray occult prayers in churches and have them repeated by congregations. And so we can agree to disagree. But that doesn't mean that Laura's a bad person. It doesn't mean that I'm right. I could be wrong. If you guys don't think I don't struggle with doubts, I just see things the way that I see them, and I ask questions, and I don't give people a pass just because they've got 3 stars. And so there are probably different degrees of how awake someone is. And I know that I've been deceived, and I'm probably still being deceived by many people in this movement, even now. So I have to believe that there's a category for possible deception on other folks that are out there. So I don't know. She might be a little bit of both. We'll see. Carla asks, is Lynn part of the Q team? I don't think so. At least Lynn has said that he's not. I like to think of Lynn as the personification of what I think Q drives at. And to me, Q is about asking questions and researching, connecting the dots. And Lynn certainly tells you to, do the research, draw your own conclusions, connect the dots, right? So I think he certainly demonstrates that curiosity in a way that's very Q-ish. And I know that many Anons that aren't part of the 3-star cult certainly have a level of endearment towards Lynn. But, I don't think he's officially anything other than a very honest and good man that loves his country and loves Jesus. Wendy asks, why did you tell Dave Jose that affidavits wouldn't get a remedy when you said at the symposium that affidavits work to get a remedy? Well, Wendy, I never said that. I have told people that you should use anything at your disposal that's going to wake up people. And so I've never discouraged people from using notices and affidavits. But I've also cautioned people to not believe that there's one legal remedy that is going to be the magic silver bullet that saves the country, because the problem isn't that we haven't identified the proper legal theory or legal remedy. The problem is that we've got corruption. The deep state has bottlenecks that are placed that have led to injustice. And so if you're going to violate black letter law on a lawsuit level where you don't even give the president of the United States standing to hear his case, then why do you think the affidavits are going to work? And my question to Dave Jose, I think it's a fair question, is what is your mechanism of force in the event that you serve someone with one of your affidavits and they ignore you? And I could never get a straight answer. within the constitutional system that we have now, if you serve someone with an affidavit, you don't even really serve them with an affidavit. You serve them with lawsuits, and affidavits are attached to the lawsuit. And if people, disregard a subpoena or legal paperwork, there are usually rules that are prescribed that a court can hold you in contempt and hold you accountable. So there are affidavits and how they're used in real life, and I'm familiar with that. And usually you have affidavits which are nothing more than sworn declarations that you're attesting that something is true, and it's after someone is there to ensure that what you're saying, there's an oath that's administered, and you swear that it's true in front of someone who has the authority to administer an oath. That's all an affidavit is. And in some lawsuits, you're required to attach a sworn pleading, because if you don't, the court's not going to look at it. That's all an affidavit is. I've told people that at trial, an affidavit doesn't take the stand because you've got the confrontation clause, and you can't cross-examine an affidavit. So a person has to take the stand. So I see some of the stuff that's been presented as snake oil, where people are over-promising and saying that this is going to solve all our problems. And here we are a calendar year in, and sure enough, the affidavit strategy hasn't saved us. And I've been clear about that. Just like math hasn't saved us, just like I haven't saved you. I don't think any one legal remedy is going to save us. I think God's going to save us, and he's going to use his children and their gifts in different ways. So Dave Jose and Josh Barnett have been highly critical of me. They've tried to set me up as this foil. And I've told you the way that I felt about all these strategies. I would never discourage you from anything that you think will work, but I want to make sure that your expectations are set appropriately so you don't get let down in the event that they don't work. And they haven't worked. And as a result, many people are feeling let down. And if they're as rock solid as everyone believes, why would it matter if I endorse them or not? If they're so strong, they would work in spite of the fact that I don't go out there and endorse everything out there. People ask me about the writ of quo warranto, and I told them, if you got a corrupt judiciary, you're likely going to see those lawsuits dismissed upon standing. And guess what? That's what happened, because my diagnosis of the problem was right. You've got a corrupt judiciary. It doesn't matter. So you're going to have to have an adult conversation on how these things work in the real world. The other criticism that I got was that I don't understand the difference between common law and case law. And that's a bunch of crap. I understand it much better than Dave Jose and Josh Barnett. Again, I was a law professor, a trial attorney. I've got more experience than they do in a real court system. When we refer to the common law, people are usually talking about post Magna Carta, the English common law system, where you had a circuit of judges that would travel. And there was a law that was developed amongst the common folks, and decisions were recorded, and other judges that wrote in the circuit would refer to those decisions. And that was the basis for stare decisis, which means let the decision stand, and case law precedent or precedent, where people would want to have a greater level of predictability in their cases. And so they would refer to other decisions that were written. That was the law that was used in the English system amongst commoners, and it was also used here in the colonies when we were British subjects. That system was also utilized for in part under the Articles of Confederation. But at some point, we had this thing called the Constitution, where you've got three branches of government. You've got the executive branch, you've got the legislative branch, and you had the judiciary. And under that system, you have a legislature that writes the law. They write statutes. And you have, but you have baked into our system a continuation of stare decisis and precedent and all of the things that were well established under the common law. And it evolved. And so you had an interplay between the role of the legislature, which was to write statutes that were consistent with their constituents' will. And you had judges that would hear cases, and they would interpret those statutes, and cases would be written, and people would follow those precedents. So it's another one of those things where we're being told that there's a solution that's baked in the common law, which, if you're looking at it in its purest form, precedes the system of government that we've enjoyed over the past 200 years. And we're being told that there's a solution that you can have 100% certainty in. And there's no historical precedent to make that claim. So I know what I'm talking about. And these other guys are just selling you a bunch of snake oil. So there you go. Man, so we've been at it here for about 50 minutes, and I've got like another 209 questions. So I've been consulting Telegram. Haven't been dodging your tough questions. But let me look at our live stream. So we've got 41 that are on right now. Eugene, long time no see. It's nice to see you. Gloria, Lisa, how are you doing? Ectoplasm, how are you? Matthew, it's going to bed. Rebecca, how you doing? Bottled Fire is watching from Germany, 8 a.m. here. Thank you for everything that you do. Hello. So I've been going at it for a while, but I'm going to do a live stream tomorrow night on the Patriot Voice on Telegram, and I'll take on some more questions. I'll see if I can just take a couple more, and then I'll publish this live stream. Again, this is the Mogwai edition, the Delta. It's been about a year since I've done a live chat or thereabouts on YouTube. And I really don't care if this gets banned because I don't use YouTube anyway. This is just a nostalgic interview. Yeah, I think I've answered enough questions tonight. So with that, thanks for tuning in for this rare, special, quaint interview. Y'all hang in there. God bless and good night.